Welcome to the Rinkside Rundown podcast, your ultimate destination for all things women's hockey with your host, Chris Sinclair, a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today I am joined by Tristan Thompson. The Manotick, Ontario native is a current member of the Etobicoke Dolphins of the OWHL and future Northeastern University graduate. Tristan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me today. This is something that I've been really looking forward to. And I'm so glad to be able to chat with you, learn a little bit more about you, and then have a little bit of fun with a great game at the end. How does that sound?
Awesome. Very excited.
Perfect. Wonderful. I always like to kick off the show with talking a little bit about why you ended up choosing hockey. What was it about hockey that you just fell in love with?
Yeah, so I was originally a ringette player for a good 2 years. And then my dad grew up playing hockey, so kind of just threw me into the sport, played Timbits growing up, and then fell in love with the sport. My mom claimed she was never going to be a hockey mom, and now is like my biggest supporter, so that's awesome. But yeah, kind of grew up playing. Now both my siblings play, so it's kind of a family affair, and I love the sport, so it's awesome.
Nice. And so it sounds like sports was actually a really big thing in your family. Was it both on the playing field as well as, watching sports as well as a family together?
For sure. I'm the oldest I have two younger siblings, so I was kind of, I guess, the pillar of all of them playing after me. But again, yeah, dad was a huge hockey person, played a little bit of junior B, I guess, got called up. So was excited for me to start, but always grew up watching the Sens, going to see Sevens games. So again, like kind of watching it and then kind of fell in love with the sport after watching it. So decided to play it, and it's been history since then.
And it's turned out really well for you. So that's it worked out really well. What kind of impact do you think that having your family behind you as you were growing up and being so supportive, and you played a number of different sports, what do you think that kind of impact had on you, both on and off the ice or playing field, I guess?
Yeah, the support was definitely kind of the reason I'm here today. Without them, this is my first year living away from home, so I'm at my billet house right now. I live in Toronto, so the kind of their support, allowing me to move away, allowing me to kind of reach the next step of my hockey career was definitely a huge part of like my development today. But not only just in hockey, I'm a quarterback for my school football team. I play boys lacrosse for my school team. I won the gold at the Canada Summer Games for lacrosse. So kind of aspects in all the sports. My parents are multi-sport athletes, so kind of looking after them. They're probably my biggest inspiration when it comes to where I am today, and like I look up to them so much. So definitely their support behind me. Not only them, my siblings. They hate to say it, but I think they pull a few things away from me. So, but seeing them develop kind of pushes me a little further, because my brother is probably 6'3" now, so a little taller than me. So I always try to beat him, even though he's younger, he still tries to push. So I do my best to keep up.
That sounds great. So you mentioned it. You play a number of different sports at different levels, which is incredible. What were some of your favorites? And I guess also, what was it about like playing a bunch of different sports? Like, did it just kind of happen organically, or were you saying like, I just want to be involved in a ton of different sports?
I think both. I've always been a multi-sport athlete. I think in elementary school, I was always like the kind of kid that played every single sport that I could. And leading into high school, kind of did the same thing. But then I truly believe that different sports give you different like athletic abilities. So lacrosse, hands, physicality, football, again, kind of strength all over, getting lower because I don't want to get tackled, or get hurt when I get tackled. So I think different aspects in sport really help my development in hockey, and then my hockey skills help me develop in other sports. So kind of vice versa. And I think that's why I fell in love with so many more sports than I think I would have. Do
you have a favorite?
Lacrosse, probably I've gone further into everything else, but I played my first year of football last year and absolutely love the sport. So I think it's tough, but I think lacrosse, I'm coaching this year, so that's going to be very exciting. But yeah, I guess you could say lacrosse.
Well, the good news is you've now found a way to just do sports year round, right? You
Yeah,
don't need the winter, you don't need the summer. You have it all covered.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. You had mentioned your billet family, but what's your experience been like? This is the first time, as you'd mentioned, that you were away from home. What's it been like with your billet family, and what's it been like just being away from home for the first time?
Well, I think it was a good step. Instead of being 8 hours away in Boston, I'm only 4. So I think that was a huge kind of draw of moving away. My billet family is our family friends. My billet mom used to be my daycare provider, so kind of a full circle moment. When I decided to come play for Etobicoke, she was like, "Yeah, welcome. You're more than welcome to stay with us." So that was awesome. It's about without traffic, it's a 45-minute drive. With traffic, it's about an hour and a half. So that part isn't that fun. But other than that, we're doing pretty well this year as a team, and I love the coaching staff, love the players. So I think it was a great move, and happy so far. So it's awesome.
Nice. And you ended up choosing defender as your position of choice. What went into that decision? What was so appealing about playing defense?
I think the height always helps. I've always been a tall kid from a young age. I think I tried out forward. Positioning wise, I've never been good. I kind of just skate all around the ice and hope to get the puck. At least defense, I have more structure to it. So that was a draw. My dad played defense. So I think he first put me in the position, then told me I was allowed to play whatever I want, but then kind of fell in love with the position. You kind of get a tight knit relationship with your goalies, which I think my best friends on every team have always been goalies. So I think that was also a draw. And then, started playing position and haven't stopped since.
Yeah, and again, I've said it a couple of times, but you've had some success, which we're going to get into in just a moment, playing defense. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like defense was basically, it was in your blood. You were meant to play
Exactly.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, playing a bunch of different sports, especially something like football, will give you that additional strength, that additional, some additional skill set to be able to play defense even at a higher level, eh?
For sure.
Speaking of defense, I want to know a little bit more about how you would describe your style of play.
Okay. I think I've always been more of a defensive defenseman. The height, I didn't really have the best hands kind of growing up. So I took the role as stay in my own zone, kind of protect the front of my net, battle hard in the corners. And then the past 2 years, I've really started to develop my offensive side. I started my first year of junior, I think I had 4 points, maybe I'm pushing that at that point. And then the last year I had 14. I think this year I have 15 or something like that. And we still have like 15 games left. So just kind of pushing myself on the offensive side, walking the blue line a little more. But again, my PK is probably my favorite part of the game. So again, being that physical aspect on the ice is definitely my favorite part. So stick with my roots, but again, grow after that. So we're still working, but so far so good.
Well, yeah, you took a huge step from your first season with the Nepean Wildcats, where you had 4 points, to the second season. You jumped all the way up to 17, and I mean, according to the sources I have, you're currently at 14 already this season with more games to play. What do you think went into kind of that adjustment to, as you'd mentioned, you've always been more of a defensive defender. Now you're taking on a little bit more of the offense. What went into that shift? Was it just to help develop your game, or what was it?
I think the development game was definitely an aspect of it. Going into June 15th, I kind of wanted to bring more to the table than just kind of being a stay-at-home defender. And then again, Northeastern, I kind of wanted to make an impact as soon as I went in. And I get that being more in the defensive end can help, but I also want, again, make an impact in the game. And I think my dad definitely played a big role in giving me the support and the aspects and the tools that to help me achieve where I am today. So yeah.
And how have you felt as you've made that adjustment? How has it changed, how you approach a game, and then how you assess how successful you were in that as you continue to adjust?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was definitely a passer in my first years of hockey. I kind of dished the puck out a lot. So now, I don't want to say being more selfish, but kind of driving the net a little more. maybe creating more of a play and then kind of dishing it off to make it a little easier for my forwards or my D partner, whoever it is. But yeah, so I think I've definitely grown, but I think I've always stuck to my roots. So yeah.
I think, I wonder if it how you would feel when you start taking on a little bit more of an offensive role. Like, how does that feel knowing that you're, obviously you're capable of it. You made a huge jump from being more of a defensive defender to now an offensive defender. What is it like? How exciting is that for your game when you're actually in a game? It's not now you just relying on, or the team relying on you being back there, but now you're actually activated in the offensive zone. What does that feel like for you?
It was definitely a bit of adjustment. I was always scared to like let down the team and always be like first up in the rush, and then I would be like back checking or make a bad play, and then again back in our end. But with the support of my team and my team last year, I've definitely been able to kind of take on that role a little more and know that in the back end I have the support and I have people covering for me. If it's my defensive partner or if it's the forward that has come to take my spot. So definitely the support of my team has definitely helped. And of course, it's fun to get points. So going to game, knowing that I have a better chance to get points than I did in my first few years of junior is definitely an exciting feeling.
Good. Fantastic. Yeah. So as we kind of transition throughout your career at this point, your career started, as I had mentioned, with the Nepean Wildcats of the OWHL. During your time there, you amassed 21 points in 68 games. And again, keeping in mind that you started off being much more of a defensive-minded defender as opposed to an offense. So you like ramped it up real quick, which is amazing. What was your experience like with the Nepean Wildcats, especially being fairly, kind of a local product at that point?
Mm-hmm. This is my first year playing outside Nepean. I've grown up playing Nepean ever since first year. I think they call it novice U9. All the way to second year junior. So always played with the same group of girls growing up. So again, that kind of family feeling was definitely a factor that kept me in Nepean. I love the coaches. I think my dad and now coaching the Lady Sens, Dana Mulvihill, were definitely like alternating my head coaches every second year. So again, yeah, that family feeling definitely kept me then. But then my friends were there, so that was definitely an aspect.
Yeah, and I would assume that as you're continuing your career, it's always nice to be able to have that sort of comfort. Especially, excuse me, you've mentioned that you were looking at changing or adjusting your game, and to have that support right at home as you're adjusting your game, as you continue to refine your game, as you continue to push yourself. I can only assume that it was nice to have the family aspect right here, ready to be able to support you.
Exactly.
Okay. What's been the impact of having a head coach like Joe Butkevich, and how do you think he's helped to shape your game?
He's definitely the reason that I've become the player I am today. As the record shows, Joe has created an amazing program in Etobicoke. I think he took it over 7 years ago, and I think every year they've gotten better and better. And then this year just proves how well he can assemble a team and how well he can coach it. It was, I think, midway through last year, I made the 06 team that was preparing the Team Ontario to go to the Canada Winter Games, and he was an assistant coach in that team. And just the way he kind of managed his bench. Again, we played against them years before. So again, I knew I was a coach, and then now having him as my head coach, you can really see what he does as a coach, how well he kind of manages his team, how well he can, calm the team when tensions are getting a little high. And then in technical aspect, he has so many contacts and knows so much about the game that he's a great coach.
Yes, and we're going to get to more of him in just a moment, because he's been someone that's, you've been kind of lockstep throughout your career, as you even when you played in some U18 championships. So to him, a little bit more about him in just a moment. But I also want to know, because I think that it's one thing to talk about, obviously family is a huge factor in support and helping you grow. There's obviously coaches, but I also think it's interesting to find out a little bit more about the other people within an organization who have helped you. So sometimes it can be, I've heard of, maybe it's, a goaltending coach, or maybe it's, a strength and conditioning coach just really made an impact on your career or where you're at. Do you have any of those people who have helped you? Maybe, again, not necessarily just coaches, but other people within the organization who have really been supportive for you?
For sure. When it comes to Etobicoke, I think my defense coach, Blake Pryor, and then our equipment manager, Brian Siddle, and then Caitlin Phillips, our physiotherapist, they're definitely the backbone of the team. I don't think without them, Joe could accomplish as much as he's done. Blake he's such a cool and collected guy that it really helps me kind of win games. I get stressed. I look at him. He's like, it's okay. You're all good. One mistake, you'll get back. So him, I think a backbone of the team is the equipment manager. He helps us so much when it comes to, last minute skate breaks or something's wrong with your helmet. He fixes it right away. And then as athletes, you're always hurt. So a physiotherapist or trainer is definitely very important. So Caitlin has helped me a lot throughout the season. But when it comes to outside of Etobicoke, the reason I have come so far this year is definitely my trainer over the summer, like this past summer. She was our chiropractor, and had a love for training. So we hired her, and I don't think I would have accomplished all that I have this year without her. Some grueling workouts, not gonna lie, they weren't so fun when I had them, but they definitely paid off for not only making Etobicoke, but making Team Ontario and going so far as I did. I definitely have to give a lot of credit to her.
And we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Durant Barristers. Durant Barristers is a proud supporter of women's sports and is an inaugural sponsor of the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Durant Barristers provides legal services for athletes, coaches, officials, administrators, and sports associations of all sizes, from minor associations to national sports organizations and professional sports environments. We routinely assist with safe sport complaints, investigations, anti-doping, harassment, discrimination, abuse, and governance matters. We also provide representation on general civil litigation matters, including employment and business disputes of all sizes. Durant Barristers founder Aaron Durant also provides mediation and arbitration services to assist in managing disputes in a timely and affordable manner. Durant Barristers has generously offered their best ever discount to fans and supporters of women's hockey. Mention the Rinkside Rundown podcast to, wait for it, receive 15% off all your accounts with Durant Barristers for the duration of your relationship with the firm. To learn more about Durant Barristers, visit www.durantbarristers.com. That's www.durantbarristers.com. Thank you to Durant Barristers for sponsoring this episode.
And now, back to the show.
There's so many different people that play a part in only one athlete's career and their journey, and to be able to get a bit of a glimpse behind the curtain to hear some of those names and to hear some of the impact that they had on you. I don't think those people get enough credit for what they do. It's easy, not to take away from family or coaches, things like that, but it's easy to kind of first think about that, not necessarily thinking about, again, things like strength and conditioning or trainers or the equipment manager, which is like a role I don't think I would have the heart to be able to do, because that just seems like an incredibly stressful role.
Yeah, I know. He takes it so well, and I'm like, Brian, I don't know how you do it. I'd be stressing out.
No, I would go gray and bald so fast it would not be a good look on me. So I have to ask, what was it like to be able to, we're going to shift gears. This is going to go like a whole 90-degree angle right here. But what was it like to be able to light the Canada Summer Games flame on Parliament Hill?
That was definitely an experience. honestly, even being asked, I was honored. I was ecstatic. Kind of came out of nowhere, really. I got the email and I was like, okay, let's go for it. And it was awesome to have it with another Team Ontario athlete, not only athlete but lacrosse athlete as well. Me and Tristan Thompson go to school together, so we've known each other for the longest time. But yeah, it was definitely an experience of a lifetime. Definitely one in the history books that I'll remember, that I'll go back to. But I got to meet so many people that I didn't know, and what the role was at the Canada Summer Games. Not only that, but in sports in general. And then having to light the flame, and then seeing it go across all the way to Niagara. That was definitely a cool experience and something cool to watch.
And what did it mean to you to be able to do that basically in your backyard? Like, you are from the area. Yeah. And you're in front of, I'm assuming, a ton of family and friends. Yeah. What was that like for you?
It was incredible. Both sets of grandparents came, my siblings came, my parents came, and the people who couldn't come definitely tuned in when they could. And then even people at school, I know I got recognized at school a few times for it, me and Tristan both. So definitely the support behind me was definitely a huge factor of it, and something that made me love even more what I did. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was difficult as I was reading about that experience. It was difficult not to have a giant smile on my face, because it just seems like such an incredible opportunity that not a lot of people get a chance to do, especially essentially in their hometown, right?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was crazy.
We've kind of talked a little bit about, some of the people that have supported you throughout your career, whether it's on or off the ice. But who are some of those maybe idols or mentors that you really gravitated towards or looked up to, and helped inspire you to continue? You've done a ton of different sports, but whichever sport it is, who have really helped you to continue staying motivated and inspired to continue your career?
Yeah, I think growing up watching the Sens, Erik Karlsson was definitely kind of one of my idols growing up. And always looked up to him. And now that the PWHL started, I've always kind of adored the defensive work, but Megan Keller has always been an idol of mine. Her gameplay, I feel like, is very similar to mine. It's something I aspire to be on her offensive side of the puck. And so she's definitely somebody. Kira Zanon, who is definitely a college player that I've always looked up to since she started. And yeah, I would have to say probably my three idols. And I feel like Cale Makar, just on the defensive side of the puck, he does so well. I think I always look at his videos and like, oh, maybe I should try this next game. But yeah, probably those people.
I had actually never thought, although it makes total sense, that you might, not to say you're watching the tape of other players in whichever league it is, but it never actually, I never realized that you might actually be looking not just at like, oh, they're a really good player, but like, oh, I saw what they did on that play. Maybe I should take that into my game. That's not even something that ever crossed my mind. So you just blew my mind. That's fantastic. We're going to now kind of shift into your I would say more of an international experience. With Team Ontario at the 2023 National Women's U18 Championships. And I say internationally, obviously that's Canadian, but still it's incredible. And you had such an incredible tournament. And I want to talk about this before we talk about the next step in your career, as well as what you've already mentioned with the PWHL, because I really want to get your some of your thoughts on the PWHL. But you won gold with Team Ontario at the 2023 National Women's U18 Championship. And during that time, no big deal, 4 points in 6 games. And for somebody, especially, for someone who is, their roots were on the defensive side, you're now lighting it up. What was, how do these tournaments help to develop you not only as a hockey player, which is important? I think these experiences are definitely important for that, but also as a person off the ice.
Yeah, I think Joe being our head coach was definitely kind of that family feeling I felt at Nationals. And then having so many girls from Etobicoke being on, again, the Team Ontario was definitely, again, kind of that. It helped me kind of the transition. But it's been a dream of mine since I heard about Team Ontario. And last year, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to make the team. But when I got the call that I made Team Red this year, I think I was over the moon. I was actually watching my billet sisters game, and I don't think I jumped with joy at more than I've ever done before. I think I was smiling the whole game too. So that was awesome. But as a player, the atmosphere that they bring, not only my teammates, but other teams, that was my first kind of big stage game that I've ever played. So and then I've always looked for goals. So I kind of getting there was my first goal, and then I got moved up to first line. That was my second goal. And then when I started getting points, I was like, wow, this isn't normal, but I'll take it. I loved it. But yeah, it was definitely an experience of a lifetime, something I will never forget.
Yeah, I actually managed to find some of the goals that you scored. I saw some of them, and there was one specifically from the point that it was, you probably remember, that I saw, and I was like, whoa, what a shot. Like, that was such a deceiving shot. What was, like, you can talk about specific goals, like literal goals, but what was that overall? What was that experience like? I'd love to hear, as someone who will never ever play in some sort of tournament like that, what was it like to be a part of that experience, especially as someone who had aspired to be able to start playing in those kinds of tournaments?
For sure. Well, when I heard it was at Dawson's Creek, I was like, first of all, where is that? And then it's a beautiful little town. But again, there's not much to do in Dawson's Creek, so it was kind of all focused on hockey, all focused on go there to play, and then we'll see what happens after. But no, it was an amazing experience. Goal wise, like making it was my first goal, and then hopefully making an impact and helping my team was the second goal. But with my team having so many amazing group of girls, I think we're all committed D1 or committed to some sort of university. That was definitely a help, and I don't think we would come as far without the coaching staff, the players, and then the community we had around us, not only as our team, but you had players from each team coming from their hotels to watch the games, and we did the same thing for others. So kind of just cheering on just the game of hockey was definitely an aspect that I think brought us as far as we did.
Well, and you just kind of mentioned it, but what and we talked about it a bit earlier. But what was it like to have your head coach as your head coach in this tournament? What was like? Did it help with, especially this being your first bigger tournament? Did it help with that kind of transition into that bigger game?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely an easier transition than with having a whole new kind of coaching staff. He knows my style of play. He knows kind of how I think on the ice. And he knows how to deal when I'm a little mad at myself, when I know I made a bad play. So it was definitely easier. And then having my D coach Carly and Michelle on the forward side. Again, I've always played against them for the past 3 years. So I've met them in handshakes, never really talked to them, but their programs have had some success. So clearly they're good coaches. And then having them on the bench, and then of course Joe being the amazing coach he is, definitely made our team what it is.
Yeah, and 4 points in 6 games. I'd say that worked out really well for you once again. Yeah, absolutely.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their health and diets so they can perform their best on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is opening soon. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, get on the waitlist today. Learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode.
And now, back to the show.
Well, before I move on, congratulations for winning gold. That's incredible.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. And again, for anyone listening, watching, you have to check out the highlights because Tristan absolutely had some bangers of shots. So that was amazing to see. Next up, though, we have a big move in your life. Your congratulations on heading to Northeastern University. This is the first time you're playing outside of Canada.
Yeah.
So before we get into what that's going to be like, what went into the decision to attend Northeastern?
Well, I think there's so much anticipation coming up to June 15th, the recruiting day. I had my list of questions set up that me and my dad kind of came up with. Woke up at 9, got the list of texts that I got, and then I got a text from Northeastern, which was honestly my first text of the day. Had no idea they were in the mix. I had kind of my coaches telling me who had called, who might be interested in me on June 15th, but Northeastern was never my radar. Nick, the associate head coach, was my first call of the day. And I think from the first moment I talked to him, I fell in love with the school, fell in love with him as a coach. And then, of course, had my other calls. And then we were actually in New York City visiting when I got the call from Nick offering me my scholarship. And that was definitely a moment to remember. It was in a little pizza shop in New York City. And yeah, it was awesome. Northeastern is a school we had the opportunity visiting 3 weeks ago for my official, for the Bean Pod, actually. We went to go watch Northeastern win. Love how it's a campus in the city, but then it also has its own like green area, so you don't really feel too overwhelmed when it comes to living in the city. And then Matthews Arena is so historic, and is definitely a factor that brought me to. Not only that, so many great players: Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Elena Mueller, Aaron Frankel, just to name a few, are players that came through Northeastern are clearly being very successful at the next level. So hoping that can also bring that success to the next level.
It's always interesting when you're able to remember the exact moment when you got some, in this case, this is life-changing news, where you can remember the exact pizza joint, which feels so on brand for New York. So I'm glad that you were exactly where I would have expected someone to be in New York. So once again, I think it's so important, like, congratulations. And I can promise you, myself and so many other people are going to be rooting for you and are excited to see this next step for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This is a question. I'm going to kind of throw a bit of a curveball here for you. Okay. I always like to know, especially, you're a Canadian. I think the typical route is through NCAA as the next progression, but there is also youth sports. So I kind of wanted to know what went into the decision to continue your career in NCAA as opposed to continuing your career in youth sports.
Yeah, so the way it works is that youth sports can basically talk to you whenever they want. So before I was allowed to talk to D1 schools, I think I talked to a fair amount of youth sports schools. And honestly, Ottawa U is like as home for me when it comes to hockey in Ottawa. So Greg Bowles is definitely a coach I talked to for the longest time, not only for recruiting, but just I would show up at Ottawa U, he'd be there and we'd just have a chat. Same with Vicky Sunahara of UFT. Dan Church of York. These are just coaches that I had talked to not only at Rinks, but then I had like chats with them with recruiting. So I never wanted to take U Sport out of the mix. It was definitely an option that if D1 wasn't going to work for me, if NCAA wasn't going to work for me, that I would have that U Sport would be right there. And I was more than happy with playing, but Northeastern just happened to work out. But I even go watch. My billet sister is at York right now, so I go watch their games a lot, say hi to Dan whenever I can, and it's great to have connections, so then I can see them at Rinks and have a chat like nothing's changed.
Nice, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's obviously for a lot of people the next logical step for them will just be U Sports. So it's great to hear, NCAA. So it's great to hear that you that was always still a mix in the mix for you, but you did end up choosing Northeastern. So what do you think, as we had mentioned just a moment ago, but what do you think it's going to be like to play in the States for the first time? And And how excited are you to be heading to Boston?
Very excited. After my official, they were at practice, and then I went to watch them at the Bean Pod. I think that's a huge draw, as the Bean Pod, having the 4 Boston schools play little tournament style, and then now the finals are at TD Gardens, which is again a huge step in women's hockey. Is definitely like something I'm so excited for. And Northeastern has always been a great program, making it to the Frozen Four over the past few years. But then playing in the States, I have my mom's family friend. My mom has a few family friends that live in Boston. So having that, again, like family aspect in that. And then I've had people say that they'll have an excuse to come down to Boston now. So that's an exciting part. So I'm very excited.
That's amazing. And again, I know I just said it, but just congratulations. And I'm so excited to continue following your career. And I know that you're going to do really, really amazing things. So I'm super stoked for you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We had spoken about it a little bit before, but now as you're continuing you're about to embark on your collegiate career, I have to ask you, you're in a unique position because now the PWHL is a thing, right? Whereas opposed to before, typically you would do collegiate and then you'd end up, if you wanted to continue your career, you would end up typically going to Europe.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, like, what does it feel like for you to be able to see the PWHL and just to see this as such a viable option?
I remember growing up and watching like the Clarkson Cup when they played at CTC. I don't think it was called CTC at that point. So again, I grew up watching women's hockey, but again, I think there was like 500 people there, so I didn't really think it was a viable option. So then the next step was the Olympic team, if I ever wanted to play at the next level. And then the PHF and the PWHPA came around, and again, more options, but there was such a divide, and you had kind of your Memphis playing at the PWHPA, but then you had like your Dale Watts coming out of university, scoring an amazing goal in the finals against Northeastern, but we're not going to mention that. Winning the NCAA championship, coming to the PHF. So again, you had such a divide, and now being able, like, my mom works for the PWHL Ottawa, so having kind of a front row seat and watching how many little girls are so inspired by not only the players, but like the jobs that have now opened in women's hockey, for players that might not be able to make to the next level, but are able to now work for the women's hockey and help grow the game. So it's definitely something I think everybody now looks up to and now thinks a viable option after your collegiate career, and something that people are now looking forward to and maybe even working harder to achieve.
And we will be right back.
I would like to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
And now, back to the show.
Ooh, good answer. That was fantastic. I really appreciate and respect that. That's for sure. So what have been your impressions of, or your initial impressions of the PWHL so far?
They've been awesome. I was able to make it to the first Ottawa game. The crowd, the atmosphere in the rink. I was there for like the days leading up to the game. I think people were all nervous. Even though it was a sellout, they were like, I don't know how it's going to go. But the atmosphere in the rink. I was also able to make it to the game at Scotiabank, Battle of Bay Street. And I think everybody can tell you there, the atmosphere and the noise and the energy in the building was absolutely incredible. I was able to go out with a few people that are part of the PWHL after, and they were like, we did not expect this. We didn't expect it to be this big. We didn't expect people to show up this much. So I think the response to the league has been overwhelming, and hopefully it can only go up from here.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I've been to multiple sporting events across different leagues, different, levels. I'll say, I've been to championship games, all that sort of stuff. I'll say that the being able to, especially as you called out, the home opener for PWHL Ottawa, but any game I've been able to attend has been the greatest sporting, not even just hockey, but the greatest sporting event experience I have ever had in my life. The signs, the young kids screaming and just so passionate about, especially the young girls now knowing that there's a career path for them potentially. And you find it so difficult not to become super emotional when you're looking around the rink and you're just seeing such passion. And this is why I think, I've mentioned it before, but why I think Ottawa was definitely the right one of the right choices for the original six. There's just such a passionate fan group.
Exactly.
Well, then, the inevitable question comes up. Is this something you might consider after you've graduated?
Oh, definitely. I think now you can see it, you can be it. I feel like that's a saying that goes around a lot now. And talking to girls from my team or even girls that are at university, they're so looking forward to the next step. Of course, enjoy your collegiate career, but that there's an option for them after that they can also play the sport that they love, and get paid to do it. So I think definitely it's a step in the right direction, and hopefully I'm able to be a part of it.
All right. Well, I always tell people, make sure you choose Ottawa, but that probably won't be too difficult for you if you're a free agent. So yeah, we'll take it. As you continue your career, you become a role model for more and more young athletes. What does that feeling mean to you?
I think growing up with little sisters, we have a 6-year age gap, so she's 11. I think I've always kind of grown up and try to present myself in the best way possible when it comes to sports. But definitely Etobicoke tries to have a community feel. So we have the younger girls come watch our games, and then we do a little signing. We have cards and we sign them for them, and they come in our room and we do a little experience for them. So I think it's definitely a factor that I try to inspire people as best as I can, and hopefully they take away from all that I say and all that I try to teach. That's why I try to get into coaching too. Hockey, I do summer camps, but then on the lacrosse side, I coach house league teams and hopefully this year the competitive team. So I try to do my best to inspire people as much as I can, and hopefully they get into the sport and start loving as much as I have.
So I guess, and my apologies, you had mentioned it earlier, but I blanked on following up about it. But could you tell us, just as we're slowly starting to wind down here, could you tell us a little bit more about how you got into the coaching side of things, and then also how that coaching has maybe impacted your own playing?
For sure. When it comes to the lacrosse side, I have a shoulder injury, so unfortunately my lacrosse season is over. My lacrosse career is over. So the next step, I love the sport so much, so coaching was the next best option. And the association I grew up in, Knights Lacrosse, Nepean Knights Lacrosse, said, do you want to coach? And I said, I'd be more than happy to. So that was kind of the lacrosse side, but it's kind of sharing my story, and hopefully people can be inspired to continue in the sport. But then when it comes to hockey, I think it's a no-brainer. When my collegiate career and my professional career is over, I'm hoping to coach. That's kind of the next goal. Either if it's a collegiate team or maybe a PWHL team, we'll see how it goes. But again, yeah, it's the inspiration part. Hopefully, yeah, if I share my story, then people will follow.
Well, and not to go too far off topic, but it was recently announced that the New York NLL team is moving to Ottawa and is becoming I think they were the New York Riptide, is becoming the Ottawa Black Bears. I'd love to, as a lacrosse fan, I'd love to hear what you thought about that.
I think Ottawa is a great market, not only for hockey as we've seen, but for lacrosse. I know that as at least my association has grown so much over the past few years. And then Gloucester is kind of our neighboring association, and the love for the sport that has grown. And like the team was just announced, and I have people texting me saying like, "Are you excited to go see games?" I'm like, "Of course." So I think it's gonna be awesome, and definitely now the sport can grow even more in Ottawa.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, the team didn't necessarily do well before as the Ottawa Rebel, but there was definitely fan support, and there's like you said, there's a passionate fan base here. So I've never seen a live game, but you better believe I am. Next season I am going to check out a bunch of those games. They're going to be great, and playing at CTC is, I think, it's so great for the sport, but especially specifically for this team.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we're winding down here, and this is the part of the show where we play a fun little game. And I promise it won't take too long, and there's no winners, there's no losers.
Okay.
Mostly because it's only you playing it, and I get that. What we're going to do is we're going to play a fun little game of 20 questions. Okay. But it's actually not 20 questions. It's only like 4 or 5. It's a handful. I should start calling it a fun game of a handful of questions.
Okay, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
I want to know, and some of these are hockey related, some of them are not, but what is your go-to pregame meal?
I think it varies. In junior, we have a lot of like morning-ish games or afternoon games. So definitely like granola, yogurt, and berries is definitely like a morning thing. I don't like to eat too close to the game, so it's definitely like a good 4 hours before game, and then I'll snack when I get to the rink. But if it's a night game, probably some like pasta, some chicken, maybe some mushrooms in there. Actually, that's what I'm having for lunch today, so we're gonna say that.
Okay, that's fair. I always ask that question, and I regret asking the question because now I'm just starving. But I have heard some previous guests, and I say this all the time, mostly because pasta is like a very, it seems like it's a very hockey related meal. I've been told, and don't do this necessarily right before a game, but I've been told that mixing Alfredo and pesto sauce is actually incredible.
Okay, well that's definitely that's a bucket list now. I have to do that for this game.
If you do it, please let me know, because I have yet to try it because I keep forgetting to do it until these moments. But if you try it, let me know, because apparently it is great.
We have games this weekend, so I'll definitely try it before there.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait to get your review. Do you have a particular ritual or superstition on game day?
Before games, I learned to juggle over COVID, so that's definitely been incorporated in my pregame routine. If you walk around rinks, and I think everybody would tell you, I eat pickles before games. That's my thing. I'll have a pickle jar in my water bottle pocket of my backpack, and I'll have my fork, and I'll just walk around the rink with my pickles. So I think that's definitely... Juggling is pretty common, but I think the pickles are definitely my own unique thing. So I'd probably say that's my pregame routine.
Nice. I can promise you I wasn't expecting either one of those answers. So that's great. So I guess a follow-up to this is, how would you rate your juggling game? And then do you have a go-to brand for pickles? And have you looked at whether the US has the same brand?
So brand-wise, no. I kind of think things on sale. I think I love the things on sale. It's kind of like whatever's cheaper, I'll go. And I know I can juggle for 20 minutes it was 20 minutes because my dad bet me $20 I couldn't. So I had to learn how to juggle for 20 minutes so that I could get the $20. So I think now maybe I can even go longer. I'm not even sure. I don't think I've gone more than 20 minutes now, but.
Wow, that is incredibly impressive. I juggled. I tried juggling, and I would go for like, you get them up in the air, and now I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. So 20 minutes, that's incredible. Glad you made some money.
Exactly.
It's good inspiration for sure. Or motivation. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but what are you most looking forward to about the city of Boston?
Definitely the atmosphere, not only for like the hockey wise, but the doghouse is like the student kind of body that cheers on the sports. And I was able to experience just not even a sliver, it was massive, but at the Beanpot, the amount of support that goes behind not only hockey, but the sports in general that go on in Northeastern, and not only the support from students, but the faculty that you have there is definitely massive. And it's in Boston. I feel like Boston's a pretty cool city. So definitely that I'm very excited for.
Do you think you're going to be checking out like some, Boston Bruins, some Boston Red Sox games and stuff like that?
Oh, for sure. Especially when Boston plays Ottawa, I'll be at those games.
Oh yeah, there we go. Got to root for the hometown team. Might be a little bit torn for you a little bit, but I do hope that you would say it'll be Ottawa all the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And lastly, in your downtime, what are some of your favorite things to do?
I've been getting to going walks a lot. It's pretty nice in Toronto right now. We're probably like 10 degrees right now. So it's going for walks is definitely like a little chill after if I've had like a stressful day, just go for a little walk, fresh air. I've been getting into reading a lot recently. My billet family just moved, so I have a little nook in my room now that is like a little reading nook. So I've been starting to read, and then I think watching Netflix shows to cool down after like a long meal or whatever is definitely what I do to chill.
Okay, so I have to ask, and I know I said that was the last question, but I have to ask follow-ups to all of those things. Are you a podcast while you walk kind of person? Are you music, or are you not listening to anything?
It varies. Mostly music. I'm really gonna out myself right now. I love musicals, like theater and musicals. Okay. So I won't belt them out when I'm walking, and the car I will belt them out, but it's definitely something that I always listen to. Podcast, it varies. Sometimes I listen to them, sometimes I don't. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you're talking to someone who was in theater all throughout high school. So I feel you on that. Sometimes it just hits right, Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And what are you reading? And then what are some of the shows you're watching on Netflix?
The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is what I'm reading right now. It was originally a school book that I never finished, and then I was like, I actually really like this book, so decided to pick it up again, and okay. I think I'm almost through it now. And then TV shows. I think I have an addiction. I think I've gone through almost all the shows on Netflix, so like that's pretty bad. So like I'm rewatching them now. So Queen of the South, I actually haven't finished it yet, watching right now. Suits, I think I've rewatched now. Designated Survivor has been something else I've picked back up on. I'm really into political shows too, so like a lot of those I've picked back up. But yeah, those are a few of them that I'm rewatching right now.
All right, so now we have some recommendations for the audience, so that's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Tristan. So as we wrap up this absolutely amazing conversation, I just want to say once again, thank you so much. You were so enthusiastic when I reached out to you to join the show. I couldn't be more happy to be able to get a chance to connect with you, chat with you, hopefully help share your story a little bit, and have a ton of fun along the way. So once again, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And there you have it, folks, for Tristan Thompson. I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.